Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Two Bald Nerds. I'm Richard Chapman. This is Mike Meyers. And Mike told us we were going to be talking about protocols, best protocol, favorite protocol. Where are we going with this, Mike? What are we talking about here?
The passion of protocols.
The passion of protocols.
I got to tell you, man, I may not remember what color socks I'm wearing, but I can guarantee you that I could probably go through of the 1,024 well-known TCP/IP ports. If I couldn't do 200 to 300 off the top of my head, I'd be surprised. But having said that, I don't want you to shame me here.
Well, didn't you start some of these protocols? Didn't you start some of these protocols, Mike? I mean, you've been around for a little while.
Well, no, I didn't start protocols, but I did invent the letter P. So, you know.
You invented the letter P. There's a story there. There has to be a story there.
No, there's no story. This is all just springing from the rich well that is my imagination. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they did LMNO, and then they were just stuck, and they're just like, well, let's go to Z. I'm like, wait, guys, wait. What about popsicles? They're like,
was this about the same time that they went from stone tablets to writing on, papyrus?
No. We went from this is when we went from scrolls to books. Yeah. Oh my God, Richard, if you ever get a chance, get on YouTube. There is a hilarious video. It's not even in English. It's in like Norwegian or something. It's got to be 12, 13 years old now. And it's the IT department for a monastery in like 1100 AD. And they're switching from scrolls to books. And the monk can't figure out a book. So he calls in the IT department to come in, and it's hilarious. Like the guy has to go through the process. Well, it's called a page. So you grab the corner and then you pull it over. And the guy's like, with the scroll, we could just roll it up a little bit. It was hilarious. If you get a chance, folks, it's on YouTube. It's hilarious. It's ancient, and it's as funny as it was when it first came out.
Nice. Like it. I love when you give me a video to watch. In the little bit of downtime I do have, it always gives me something to go and watch. Like listening to the SR-71 pilots. I had to go watch that video after you recommended it, and I gotta say, I was laughing so hard. It was hilarious.
LA
watch this.
Check. LA speed check, man. Yeah. I guess that's the one thing after sitting on the internet pretty much since, well, it was ever existing. I mean, it's interesting. I can remember being on the internet in the early 90s. It wasn't nearly as big as it is now. You just collect this stack of wacky, completely disconnected videos. And there we go. I should make a video of the. Oh my God, we should do a Mike reaction video of Mike videos.
Okay.
What do you think about that? Or
That's fun.
We can do reaction videos. All right. We're here to talk about protocols, young man. Let's here. The first protocol is stick to the conversation about protocols.
Protocols. What's a protocol?
What is a protocol? Well, I mean, a protocol is a series of rules that allow for some form of exchange to take place. So protocols can be completely have nothing to do with IT. We have diplomatic protocols. We have all kinds of protocols. So a protocol just means a rule set that everybody understands that allows for some level of communication. That's it.
Makes sense.
In the IT world, obviously, in the networking world, if one is to play with TCP/IP, I mean, literally, there's so many protocols in TCP/IP that even the name of this whole thing is two protocols, right?
Yeah.
It's the TCP protocol and the IP protocol.
Yep.
They should have called it the TCP, UDP, and a whole bunch of other little protocols that run on top of these other protocols, which eventually get to a protocol called IP. And then there's protocols below that have to deal with, layer 2 stuff. But nobody liked that name, so we just went with TCP/IP.
Makes sense. I mean,
Well, you think so many of these parts of the internet, how are they formed, and where did these terms come from? And and it's always hilarious that the amount of lack of rules. It was pew pew, country back then,
Right.
Well, let's just with IPv4 forget aggregation. Let's just get anybody use any address they want, and pretty much they do and did. And what it's craziness, or protocols with names like gosh, kind of think of one off the top of my head. Twain. You remember Twain scanners?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I haven't heard that word in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Well, come on, I'm putting myself on the spot. You know what Twain stands for?
I do not actually.
Technology without an interesting name. That's what
I did not know that, but I do. It's funny. I haven't heard that word in so long. It took my brain a second to kind of populate and go, oh my gosh, I haven't heard that since
there's hundreds. There's hundreds of those. There's another video we should do a little research and just where did all these names come from? They're hilarious. So many of them.
Some silly nerd. That's where they came from.
From silly nerd or some very busy nerd.
Yeah, that too.
Like, I don't
non-creative nerd. We're not very creative.
So for me, I had to think about this one. Like, what's the most important protocol? Okay, so first of all, Richard, don't take this too seriously, okay? All right.
Okay.
And it's this is a fun thing. And
Of
so
course.
I started off all practically. So I
Me
started,
too.
and so IP, there you go. IP is the most important protocol. And I think you'd be hard pressed to argue against that one, given that every packet that goes on the internet is an IP packet of some form.
Okay.
So I went with that, but that's boring and dull.
A little bit.
So
See,
yeah, well,
I went down to those layer two. I went down to address resolution because I mean, how do you know which device has which IP if you don't have address resolution to the MAC address?
Oh, well, that's easy enough. Get rid of IP and replace it with the old Microsoft NetBEUI protocol.
But you just said that IP was the most important, so now you're throwing it out the window.
We could, I got to tell you, one of the most wonderful things about watching the internet all these years is that you get to watch where the trends and the fashions and mainly you get to see where people are looking. A lot of times, like if you put an OSI 7-layer stack in your brain, what protocol are we talking about or whatever it might be, and you're always jumping around mentally inside the OSI, and it's like,
right.
which one of these is going to be the most important one? And of course the answer is arguably the higher up the stack you get, the less important they are, right? I would argue that. Yeah. But something like ARP hasn't been looked at on an OSI stack by anybody other than you and me and maybe 3 guys in Taiwan, so.
But that doesn't mean it's not important though.
It doesn't mean it's not important. I'm right.
It's taken for granted, right? It's there, it works. We know it's there, but without it.
Well, yeah, no, nothing's going to happen. There's no way to convert I have a lovely packet that I would like to send to somebody, but if I don't know their MAC address, not much is going to happen.
It's just going to float around and just hang out there till who knows.
So ARP and RARP and all those things, very critical. Won't argue with it. Also very boring, because you know what the most important protocol is, Richard?
What?
RTSP, real-time streaming protocol. Now that's an important protocol. In fact, I don't know for a fact how Zoom works. Does Zoom have its own proprietary protocol? I don't even know. Most streaming video that you're running into, YouTube, all that type of stuff, is going to be streaming. And so I guarantee you that 40% of the people watching us right now have wasted at least 1 hour of their life on YouTube in the last week. Guaranteed. How about you, Mr. Chapman? Are you have you known to waste up to an hour of time a week on YouTube?
No, I'm not. I really am not. I'm lucky if I spend a few minutes looking at, a few videos. I'm not. I honestly, I try to, because I use my devices so frequently with work. When I unplug from work mode, I truly try to not be engaged with that kind of activity. So I don't play games on my phone anymore. I mean, I know, right? What's wrong with me? There has to be a balance, Mike.
No, there doesn't have to be a balance. This is what you young winkers say. We need work-life balance. No, you don't. You need this is it. This is my, as the French would say, my raison d'être. This is my reason for being. This is more fun hanging out with you on a Friday morning, talking about protocols than what else do you do if you're not like riding a bicycle, you know?
Well, I do have a wife and a daughter, and I have family, and they don't necessarily nerd out and geek out like I do or we do. So
There's your mistake. There's your mistake. You had to form them into.
Listen, if I wouldn't have met my wife, who actually pulled me more out of my shell, I would just be a lonely nerd somewhere, so
you'd be with me, Richard. You'd be with me in nerd heaven in Houston, Texas.
I gotta tell you, you're not as attractive as my wife. I'm sorry. It's just not, no.
Oh, well, no. Oh, man, that's harsh. All right.
Oh, man.
All right.
I love you, though.
All right. I'll take that. All right. So I kept thinking about this. Then I was like, all right, so IP is too easy of a statement for the most important protocol. So I started thinking more about this. And to me, so the next step is well, and you kind of said it already a little bit, sort of with ARP, but DNS, any form of name resolution is going to be really, really important. And plus I love DNS. I just find DNS to be utterly fascinating because it's the one protocol that we don't really have nailed all the way down yet, and we're not, DNSSEC is never going to reach the level of penetration that we once thought it would 10 or 15 years ago. So suck it up, Buttercup, do a little magic. I mean, DNS by definition must be public, right? I mean, and anytime you take a protocol that's exposed directly to the public, you and I know what happens.
Yep.
Naughty people do naughty, naughty things.
Of course. Actually, it's funny you mentioned DNS. There's been a lot more talk lately about if you're running some sort of DNS security in your environment, if you were running DNS security in your environment, how it could have possibly prevented some of the ransomware attacks that have taken place. So there's kind of a big push actually for DNS security to be a preliminary security measure that you take in your environment to reduce the amount of ransomware attacks. So I can see it. I mean, if it can, identify a particular domain as being categorized as malicious early on, then that helps out tremendously. So we're using one here.
All right. Well, yeah, no, I'm all about DNSSEC, but it's for somebody who's set up many, many, many thousands of DNS servers. Without it, DNSSEC adds a fairly substantial level of configuration complexity. Yeah. At least if you're running your own DNS servers. But so we could take care of all kinds of problems here and say that the most important protocol is IPv6. So now we've got all of our addressing covered. Okay. Yeah. And now we don't even need DNSSEC because a fully configured IPv6 stack is going to include layer 3 security from stem to stern. In fact, you can throw out your HTTPS and your SFTP. Nobody's going to do that. What? Right. That people forget that when IPv6 first came out, the massive address space was great, sure. But man, IPv6, here, I'm going to give an impassioned speech for IPv6 being the most important protocol. IPv6 was going to bring back aggregation, which was going to reduce tier 1 and tier 2 routing tables by 90%. IPv6, if you wanted to, using IPsec, would have stem-to-stem encryption. Even tunneling was built into IPv6. Now, nobody did it. We basically said, oh, we like the part where we've got a big address space, and we like the fact that we don't have to deal with DHCP or really NAT anymore. That part's great. But wait a minute, IPsec. So you can say IPsec, but people forget IPsec then also required a certificate, at least the way IPv6 was going to manifest it. And everybody and people are like, whoa, hold up. You mean we're going to have to put a certificate on every single, if it's an endpoint, it's going to need a certificate. And boy, it's funny. We could pull it off today and literally not have any more security protocols other than IPv6.
So how come there isn't a big push to get IPv6 more standardized, especially with the attacks continuing to grow every single day?
Well, because RSA works just fine, thanks. People don't want to spend money. Why make this big gear shift to reconfiguring protocols, not reconfiguring, to establishing a very advanced protocol that hasn't had a lot of testing, especially with the tunneling stuff?
Right.
And the answer is it's just a matter of will. Would it work better? Sure. And we should have made bald heads be the most attractive thing a guy could have, but you just can't change, people's attitudes. So
and that's also not something that just individual, organizations or whatever can implement. It has to be an overall change, right? For the most part.
International.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least that's not true. We're Americans. We run the internet. So at least get enough of us on it.
Everybody else will follow. Hey, 75%, I think it's something like 75% of the world's internet traffic goes right through the county that I live in. 75% of the world's internet traffic. Think about that for half a second. That's huge.
So many jokes right there about Washington, D.C. and what they're watching on video, but I'm not going to say it out loud. In this new McCarthyism we're in,
yeah.
And Blue at sidebar. So I'm still working on TikTok, right?
Right.
TikTok is like, well, back in the 70s, we used to call them blue-haired old ladies, and it was the morality police. There was no law, right? It's just like if you do anything on TikTok that's even a little bit like less than Disney rated, you get slapped. I thought it was so funny. I digress. All right, so which one are you going to let me pick? I'm going to, here, you pick one and I pick one.
All right.
I'm going to go with IPv6 as the most important protocol.
Ooh.
You got to pick one. I know we need them all.
Well, I was going to say, maybe I do the cop-out answer here, because to be perfectly honest, I felt pretty solid about my ARP, but now that we've had this discussion, I don't know. I'm questioning myself. Maybe I'll just do the cop-out answer and say all protocols are important at the moment.
Every protocol is precious. Every protocol is good. Sorry, buddy Python.
It's an all-inclusive protocol episode.
We're HAP, H-A-P. We hug all protocols, right?
I like it.
Ah,
you know what? That's a great place to end. We HAP, everybody. Hug all protocols. They're all important.
You have fun. Get out there. HAP a protocol, and we'll see you on the next Two Bald Nerds. If you like Two Bald Nerds, check out our entire playlist right here. It's a lot of fun. We'll see you there.